This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today to start turning your dreams into a reality. Hey friends, so before we dive into this episode with Jay, Pryor, and myself, I just wanted to read off a review. I really appreciate this because honestly, it means the world to me when people like this take time out of their day, take real time. Like they could be doing so many other things, but they say no to so many other things to say yes to this one opportunity. And someone by the name of Swag the 7th wrote in a review, I believe asking questions is more important than answers. Logan does a great job at guiding his guests in a direction that fulfills the podcast title. Oh my God, this this review is the best thing ever. And if you want an opportunity to get your review read, I would love for you to leave a review. Yeah, I make mistakes too. We all do. So I want to just let you guys know that I'm listening and I want to get connected with you. So I also want to invite you to the Facebook group that I have, Scratch Your Own Itch, Creating a Life Worth Living. All the people in there have something to give, and you do too if you join it. I know you do. And if you have a question, there are fitness entrepreneurs in there, creative entrepreneurs of all types, authors, maybe an instructor that you're interested in learning from. I mean, I'm talking like health coaches. I'm talking mental coaches. I'm talking podcast coaches. I'm talking so many people that have so much wisdom to give are in that group. And it's free. And all you have to do is go to the show notes and find it. Or you can even search Scratch Your Own Itch in Facebook link. It's not hard to find. Also, hit that subscribe button and don't miss another episode. And if you want to get in contact with me about starting your own podcast, but you have these limiting beliefs that are blocking you from actually getting your voice out there, either a podcast or a YouTube channel, I would love to help you. Just email me, logan@logantylernelson.com. Again, that's logan@logantylernelson.com. And I would love to help you with that because I've realized the reason why I didn't start a podcast was some ridiculous belief that wasn't true kept me from doing that. So don't let that ridiculous belief that isn't true hold you back. And the question that I have about this, I want to ask you a very serious sort of curious question. What is that one thing that you care so much about that for some reason you keep avoiding? Really ask yourself this question. Write it down or say it out loud. And just asking the right question sometimes will give you the answer. So, all right, without further ado, enjoy my interview with Jay, Pryor, and myself. Hey, you. Yeah, just you. If you're wondering what it would be like to have something that you dream of actually come true because you're using the law of attraction, then this episode is definitely not for you. But if you're going to use the law of attraction, you attach some action with it, then this episode is definitely for you. But I'm not going to talk above you like I'm someone that's better than you, that has it all together. Because I know it's easy to just consume and think that these dreams that you have in your life are going to come true just by using law of attraction, right? I mean, really, it's easy to just sit there and not do much, especially when Netflix is releasing awesome episodes and you've got Star Wars movies that are coming out, and it's easy to just sit there and watch instead of actually making your dreams come true. But if you're here to scratch your own itch by learning techniques such as pave the way or visualization and creating a life worth living with my sidekick and I, Jay Pryor, then stick around. And if you're wondering who Jay Pryor is, well, Jay is filled with love, service. He does this service thing by mostly speaking, writing, and coaching, but he is focused on serving executive women by guiding them as they access their intuition, learn to trust their inner knowing, and align with the law of attraction. An approach that results in more business, more money, more fun, and more inner peace. But he gets them to do the work. And that's where you got to check out his podcast as well, Doing the Work. But I've been talking a lot, and I want you to introduce yourselves and your new life to my sidekick and I, Jay Pryor. Jay, thank you so much for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch.
Thank you, Logan. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Thank you for having that talk before we started, and
Sure.
I'm loving what you're about, and I'm really happy that I discovered you. And yeah, I would love to invite you to sort of get your story, and I don't want to just ask you a vague question because I know you've gone through a lot, and we get vulnerable on this show, and
Mhm.
just ask you, what that one thing that happened to you that really changed a lot and made you pivot and sort of take a turn for the best.
Um, that's a I've been through a lot. I'm 52 years old, and the most significant thing that happened to me first was I was 6 and my sister died. And we didn't I think not knowing how to deal with grief at a really young age. And then I was a young queer kid. I was a young lesbian. I was born female, and I was everything was great until I was about 11 years old, and then all my friends started getting into makeup and wearing purses and acting like girls, and that was confusing for me because it just didn't seem right. It was weird, and I was weird, and I thought there was something wrong with me. And then when I was about 13 or 14 years old, a girl kissed me, another girl kissed me. And then I figured out that I was just gay. Oh, I'm just gay. And I was like, holy crap, I'm gay. Because this was clearly, I was in a small town in Kansas, and it was in the 80s. So that was a huge, significant event for me. And it sent me on a drinking and suicidal binge through high school because I was pretty much knew that for me, being raised Catholic the way I was, being gay meant that I was going to go straight to hell. I also knew that suicide was going to send me to hell, but I figured why not get there faster? So at the age of 16 years old, I drove my parents' car 100 miles an hour down a country road, and I flipped it, intending to kill myself. And I know you're familiar with this story where basically I came out without a scratch out of that accident. I totaled the car. But 2 years later, and 2 years of suicidal ideation later, I ended up in a psychiatric unit at the age of 18, hating my own guts because I was a young lesbian. And that for me was probably the most significant event that had me learn what I teach now, which is around starting to, at that age of 18, I was on a, I was 18 years old and I was on a psychiatric unit with, um, 35-year-old schizophrenics and 40-year-old manic depressants. And there was a woman who was 50 years old there who was so depressed they had to use shock treatment to help her with that. And I was there again, hating my own guts just because I was gay, and then started learning about managing my mind and managing my self talk. And so that's what started me on my personal development journey, which is now I teach and I coach and I go into companies and I work with executives around some of those coaching principles. But for me, that if there was a pivotal moment, there was lots of things happened to me. And then beyond that, so that started me off. And then, uh, you would think that the transition from female to male at the age of 35, I decided that I really wanted to be authentic, and I started seeing a therapist and really starting to understand what would be an authentic expression for me. And so, even though I don't identify my gender identity is not man, I feel like I was trained as a woman, and so I mostly identify as woman. My gender expression is completely masculine. So I've been on testosterone for 16 years, and so the world sees me nothing as a man. So I moved through the world as a man. And so that was a huge shift for me too, and that gave me a keen insight into how the world treats men and women so differently. And so as I started to learn and grow as a coach, and I started working exclusively with women. And then the thing happened to me that I think actually is the most significant thing that has shifted uh, been the catalyst to my own personal transformation. And I tell people all the time that for me, being a parent is the most transformational experience a human being can have. And I've had a sex change, so I think that says a lot. Um, so ultimately, then becoming a parent and watching my dad fly out of me, and you know, having to really face front some of the ways I was taught to parent, or taught, some of those neural patterns that run around parenting, for me, have been some of the most challenging things. But out of all that, then comes my work, which is really called Lean Inside. And the idea is that you have everything inside you to succeed. It's about accessing that at a level of consciousness. And so I'm blessed to get to work with people to fulfill on their dreams, create their goals, blow their minds with being able to get in alignment with who and what they say they are. And it's a huge blessing. And I wouldn't have any of it had I not been through all of those things throughout my life. I'm at the stage of my life where I'm very, very, very grateful that I had all that trial and tribulation, because it taught me so much, and I get to live this blessed life where I get to share all the skills and teachings that I've been able to gather through those hard times.
Wow. 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 That is a story. That is like
Yeah, thanks.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, undescribable. It is so many of those adjectives that I think are really hard to pin down, because it is a roller coaster ride, and it sounds like it's been a real roller coaster ride for you. And
Yeah, it has.
I have to point out, though, the immense amount of transparency that you use in yourself, that I think is so noble and courageous.
Mm.
Um,
Thank
just to
you. For
be
me, it's
out
just
there.
authentic. I don't. I just. I've been living it for so long that it feels inauthentic if I'm not just straight with people about who I really am, or where I come from. And I also think it. Most what I find is that most people actually are quite open and just curious and loving, and it provides some really deep uh, connection with other people.
Yeah, I agree with that. When it's kind of like that idea of like positivity is contagious, and laughing is contagious, and
Sure.
being just open. Sometimes I think it's a harder road to travel than just the laughter and comedy, because who doesn't want to laugh? But
Right.
I do believe, like you said, it's also contagious when you're just open with things, and you're not like hiding behind stuff. But hey, I want to get to the idea, this sort of the work that you do with someone, and leaning is super interesting, and it's definitely scratching my own itch. It's making me super curious about something that you do, which is Why do you think that someone has a clear vision on something that they really want, and then through the thick of it, they start telling themselves these stories inside their head that doesn't allow them to line up and actually get that thing that they want, that they visualized once upon a time, and now it's just not going to happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's actually an easy answer. I mean, and it's pretty common amongst all of us that are teaching personal development that when 0 to 7, we get kind of programmed. You know, like you're literally the patterns in your brain. You can think of the patterns in your brain like wagon wheels through mud. So after you've run a certain pattern, goes over and over and over, it forms a groove that just goes on its own. And so, when we get excited about an idea, my very first coaching client was like this. She had been working with, uh, she's an accomplished musician. And then her mom got Alzheimer's. And so she quit work and worked with her mom with Alzheimer's, and her mom died. And she was kind of in a place where she wasn't sure about what to do next. And so she was my very first coaching client. I actually coached her for free, just to get the experience. And I'm talking with her, and in coaching, our goal is to have you come to your own conclusions, because it's very important that you embody the whole process. So we, instead of give you the answers, we do our best to ask you questions and have you get to the answers. Well, she was looking for what to do. She loves music. She's again an accomplished musician. She also really enjoyed working with her mom and working with people with Alzheimer's. So in my mind, I immediately thought of music therapy, right? But I didn't want to give her that answer. But I started asking her questions, and eventually, she said one day in a coaching session, like the second one, she said, "Oh, I could do music therapy." And immediately, and this is what I say in my book, and this is what I teach all the time. I said, what we have to understand, and we're not taught this as humans. We need to be taught this when I don't know why we're not taught this when we're little kids. But what there is to know is that the minute you have a positive thought, like she had this thought, "Oh, I could do music therapy," the next thought, and I am talking milliseconds, the next millisecond, ego's on the scene, 911 responder there to tell her she can't do that, right? So the very next thought she has is, "Oh, but I'll be 55 years old before I get out of school for that." And so my answer to her was, "Well, you're going to be 55 years old anyway. Would you rather be 55 years old and be a music therapist enjoying your life? Would you rather be 55 years old still wandering around?" Now, that's the power a coach can have, is we can be there to hold somebody accountable to what they say they want, and then help them through the fear, taking the baby steps to create that. So the next thing she and I did was start to take baby steps towards her creating that for herself. And I mean, so baby that it didn't scare her. Like, just go look at some schools. Just go start to think about it. Just go look at some schools. But a couple of months of doing that, next thing you know, she's registered in school. And now, I've been coaching for 12 years. So she'd be what, 62 something, 50, 67, 68. She's ready. Yeah. In fact, I got a card from her. Oh, you know what? I forgot all about this. I'm telling the story. I got a card from her. And now she has her own business where she brings in music therapy into nursing homes, right? She's had this music therapy business for all this time. So, point being, if I hadn't been there, she would have had that thought. And the very next thought is the 911 responder thought that says, "You can't do that." And that is just human programming. I mean, that is nothing. You cannot take that personally. It is literally every single human on the planet is wired up for survival and fear. And when we have a good idea, the very first one to check in with that is your, ego brain. "Oh God," and tells you all the reasons you can't do that. And so it's just a human thing that we have to keep flexing our muscle up, being, "No, I'm going to take action on the idea and then see if it inspires me to continue to take action while I'm managing my mind and not listening to all the doubts and all the negativity." But to know it's human gives you I think gives us a possibility, because what humans do is we get so special. See, we're like, "Oh, but I can't take action on that." And then it gets into this self-loathing, self-pitying, rolling around in your own stink kind of stuff that ultimately then has you doing nothing. And I think it's just human. I think we all do that.
Yeah, our minds are just so much of what you just said. It's like reminds me of that we are just such archaic beings, no matter how hard we try not to be. Like
Yeah,
our mind,
we're
we're
not
just
very
our
far off.
brain.
We really aren't.
What was that?
We're not that far off a caveman. We really aren't. I mean,
Mm.
I agree with you. Yeah, and especially the awareness that human beings have of themselves. I mean, it's not you don't have to look very far out in the world to see that most human beings are completely unaware of their impact on other humans. And so that's a part of what I teach and why it's so valuable in companies to have this kind of work, and why why I work with executives, because understanding your impact on other humans is really valuable. it's it will serve you well, but most people are unconscious of that. So that's part of the cool part of the work I get to do, is have them start to wake up and be conscious. It's
Yeah,
pretty neat.
absolutely. Oh
Conscious
my
and
God.
responsible for what they're bringing to the table anyway.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that's making me really, really curious is this. Do you think we're just built to just constantly have a really, really awesome idea and then just built to sort of run away from it and avoiding it right away? So, like, maybe your idea is like, I'm going to write a book, and then 2 hours into it, of just thinking that you have nothing to write about, even though during the time of thinking about writing the book, you had all these ideas and thoughts that were running through your head about writing the book, because I know you wrote a book, and then all of a sudden you sit there and you don't actually write a single word because
Right.
your fear takes over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
No,
do
I
you
do
think?
think
Yeah.
that's very human. That's just a human thing. Yeah. And I think that that's why some people are successful and some people aren't. The people who learn to manage their minds and take action and follow through, and especially on the things that they love, then, they'll find a way to do it. They'll find a way to be fulfilled by it too.
What's your one favorite question to ask yourself when you fall into that fear trap that a lot of us do, and just that one thing that we really want to start doing, and then all of a sudden,
It's
like,
not something to ask myself, but it's something to do. It's like to get in this moment, because 99 point, well, I'm just going to say 100%. 100% of your fear is not happening in this moment. While you're listening to my voice right now, nothing bad is happening. And so if you can get yourself into this moment, and that's what if I start to go get running away with fear, what the fear is, whatever story is happening in my head. So that's why I'm a big believer in meditation, and in practicing being still, and in practicing managing your mind, and doing all those things, so you have all those tools when it does get crazy, that you can get to a knowing that in this moment nothing's happening. And it's crazy how this thing can, or I don't want to use the word crazy, um, like uh, as it's not accurate. It is interesting and curious to watch how fast a my own mind, and I'm a pretty well trained, I'm a decently trained human being. Um, how fast my own mind can go and start creating stories about fear, and I'm those things are happening only in my mind, only in my thoughts, and yet my heart will race, my body will respond, and that's why we have to manage that too, because it also affects us physiologically. Like our bodies respond to the mind. So we've got to really be in this moment and be really clear about what is happening, rather than fearing things that are either from our past or coming in our future.
what's that thing that you always look back at that grounds you, sort of like, because let's face it, like, all of a sudden you start the day well, and then
Yeah, for me, that's my
maybe
spirituality.
is that's your spirituality?
Yeah,
I'm
that
sorry, what was
grounds
that?
me. I have a
Oh, so
grounding
it's
process, a spiritual grounding process that I use, and it's part of my ritual before meditation. Um, but I can always go to that, and there's essentially the spiritual teachings that I follow come from the New Thought teachings around things like the law of attraction. Um, so I can always go back to the phrase that there are two phrases. I have two phrases. One is there's only one power and one presence in the universe. and it's a force of good, and that reminds me that I'm included in that. And the other one is that there's no circumstance before me that is greater than the power within me.
Oh, I love that so much. That's so cool. And I wanna point out, and I want you to like actually use a story where maybe law of attraction and then putting some action towards it actually worked. Because I
Oh
think
yeah,
there's a huge like some sort of myth out there that if I dream and put on my visualization board that this $1 million is gonna happen for me, or that book idea, or that
yeah.
book title is gonna be there.
Well, the thing is the
Let's hear
difference
it.
between forced action and inspired action. I mean, if you're really in alignment with the law of attraction, then you're going to be inspired to take action. If you're not inspired to take action, you're not really in alignment. You're there's a difference between being in alignment with something that is a desire that you want to create and it's in alignment with you, versus, I mean, because the ego will give you all kinds of desires, right? Your ego will be give you all kinds of desires. If you're in alignment with the law of attraction, because the law of attraction is part of the force of the energy or vibration of well-being, that is the universe, right? So if you're in alignment with that, you'll be inspired to take action. And if you're and that's what I help people get clear about, that when you know what you want, when you get clear about what you want, and it is in alignment with your most authentic, and I would call it your highest self, your highest best self. So my definition of transformation is chipping away at everything that's not your highest best self by practicing progress, not perfection. Because as humans, we try to model this idea of perfection. It never works. And so what we do is we get in alignment with something we really want. So, for example, I've got so many stories, but one of my favorite ones, I just talked to her recently, and I know she won't mind me telling her story. I'm not going to give her full name, but my client Lori came to me with a vague idea. And see, the thing is, you can tell when it's an idea coming from the ego versus an inspired, authentic, in alignment idea, because stuff doesn't work out. And I mean, there's all kinds of ways to check in with yourself. So this woman hires me. She comes to work with me as a coach, and she has a vague notion. She wants to leave Kansas, and she has a few places she wants to go, but she has no reason to leave. And so part of the issue is, how's she going to explain this to her kids? And so I get her in alignment. We start teaching and learning about the law of attraction and getting herself in alignment with herself, and having her check in with herself and what is it that she really wants. Because most humans, especially women that I work with, by the time they're in their 45s or 50s, especially this generation, you all who are younger, millennials, have way less of this on you, of other people's shoulds about what you should do and what you should be like. And so imagine this woman is in her 40s, and she is, raised kids and been shitted on her whole life about all the things she should do. And now she has this notion that she wants to move, like for no reason. But she wants to start over and move. And so she comes to me and we start getting into that. And I am telling you, over the course of 4 to 6 months, I usually engage clients for 6 months. Coaches usually say it takes 12 coaching sessions to really get up under something and start to get it going and create it. So I know that it was in a course of 4 to 6 months that things happened with that woman, that when I love her so much, and she kept saying this phrase, which was, "What are the chances?" Like, Jay, what are the chances of this happening? And so she started, figuring out where she wanted to go, and she started looking, and she got clear on the place, and then once she got clear on the place, she started meeting. She actually accidentally met someone from that place. I mean, all these serendipitous things happened. She ended up selling her house for a cash offer, after it'd been on the market for one day in the fall, like late fall when houses are not supposed to sell. Like all of those kinds of things happened. And now she lives in this place. She lives in Temecula, San Diego, and loves it there and has this great job there and this great life there that, I mean, I don't know how much more detail you want, but it was things like that, where, I mean, I just can't even, when you're standing there having the serendipitous things happen, and you're going, what are the chances of this happening? When she said that multiple times, she was somebody that all I had to do, she was so ready because she already knew what she wanted. She just had to give herself permission and then get in alignment with it. And that's about really being clear and that you are doing everything from a place of being truly authentic rather than all those stories, all that ego, all that small stuff. In my book, I call your ego your small, because your small is, it's playing small. It's that part of us that wants to hide and be fearful. Um, but it's about starting to be flex your muscle around understanding who's really talking. Is it which plane of consciousness is speaking? Is it my small or is it my higher self? Is it my what I call yourself? So, Lori was somebody that I worked with but you have to get in action. That's the thing. I mean, you can't just like, if she'd have come to me and I'd be like, oh, that's a fun idea. Go visualize about it. I mean, that's not going to happen. I mean, she came to me, we got in action. She started looking at going to fly to the different places. And then she narrowed it down. And then she went to this place and then she fell in love with something there. And then, it was a sign that she would go there. And then, then she found a place to live there. And then she put her house on the market and then it sold in a day. And then, it's those kind of things where, I mean, it was just so fun, such a joyride. Um, that's kind of how it works.
That's amazing. Yeah. Oh gosh, I totally believe in the idea of when the student is ready, the teacher will come, and the student, meaning that they're ready, will actually make things easier on themselves by just taking the advice, taking the sort of learnings that they're given, and actually doing something with it. And I say this only just to point out that you right now, you that's listening, might be in that space where you just want more knowledge and more information about it until you actually do anything about it. And I'm not saying that you're doing anything wrong because you just might be in that preparation state, and that needs to be very valued. But at the same time, life will become less exhausting and become easier. And I'm not saying that there's no work involved. There's certainly confusing times, but there's certainly for me, once I started doing this podcasting stuff and once I started just telling my story and being more myself and um, talking about the thoughts that were negative inside my brain and just sharing them as much as I could, all of a sudden things just started to become a little bit easier. And I stopped going, oh my God, life is so tough. I'm so confused. I don't know what to do with the next moment. So, thank you for sharing that story, though. That's incredible about her
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
what
Yeah.
she's doing with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I wanna get to some, I call them scratching the surface curiosity questions, if you
Sure.
don't mind. And it's
Sure.
just in attempt to do two things. First of all, to just make some people feel less alone, and to also just figure out a little bit more about Jay Pryor.
Sure.
Awesome. So the first thing I like to ask is, what's that one thought that keeps entering your brain that's a bad thought that just keeps going there and you just wish you didn't have it anymore?
Oh, wow. I've really transformed a lot of those. I had the last one was no one will help me, feeling helpless.
Ah, yeah, you're not alone with that. That's for sure.
Yeah. And
Feeling helpless.
the thing is that we have to remember about our brains is they will tell us things that are so not. It will tell us things that are not true. Truth is, I have tons of people who give me lots of help. And what we have to do sometimes is take what we heard, like no one will help me, and get our curiosity hat on and go looking for ways that that's not true. Go start proving to ourselves that that's not true. Making sure we start to say to ourselves when that pops up, "That's not true. Look, that person just gave me lots of help." Like getting logical with it sometimes because it'll lie to you. But that was the last one was no one will help me.
Yeah, that'll save you 9 times out of 10. Just being curious about that thought and then going deeper and actually getting
Yeah.
outward with it. So, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. The next thing I'd
Yeah.
like to ask you is, if you could pick one person to be for an entire month, who would it be and why?
Oh wow. One person. Oh, for an entire month? Are they a living or I mean, can they have to be alive right now?
I will give you the option. They can actually be dead too.
Oh, one person.
First person that comes to mind.
Oprah Winfrey.
Yes. Yes. And why?
Oh, well, first of all, she's my biggest hero. And then she's all. I mean, if I could, I want to be her when I grow up. So, kind of person in my life. So, that's a big drive in it. The other thing is she has a lot of money. I mean, I was going thinking if how can I make the biggest difference if I can be anybody I want to be in the next for 30 days, I would want to have access to a lot of money because I'd be like setting up foundations for how can I in 30 days can I set up a trans foundation for trans guys to get surgeries? Can I, like how much can I get done with Oprah's money? So that was part of it too. But she's my biggest hero. I'd like to be in her world.
Yeah, and I want to let everyone know right now that you're not about money, but it's the money and the tools that it allows you to actually sort of utilize when you have that as
Oh
a
yeah,
tool.
no. Well, I mean, I am about money. I am about money in the sense that it in our world runs on money, and to make a difference, you need it. So,
Oh,
otherwise, I mean, if I, I'm not advocating. I mean, I charge for my services because it's important that we all do that and that we all contribute to our economy, um, and do with it as much as we can. And yeah, the kind of money that Oprah has and the kind of money that Bill Gates has or any of those people, I have lots of ideas about ways that I wish our world worked. That there were just certain things that I've seen throughout my life of people being raised in poverty that things could be different in our world for them, and my whole goal is if I'm ever about money, it's to get to a place where I can make so much of it that I can really make a bigger, huge difference in the world and change things for some people. So yeah,
yeah. Totally. I thank you for pointing that out. Sorry, I didn't mean to put words in your mouth or anything like
no,
that.
that's
I just
okay.
more, I know that you do things for the right reasons. That's what
Yeah,
I
thank you.
wanted to point out.
I appreciate that validation.
Absolutely. So I guess the next question I really love to ask is the idea of what habit do you think contributes to the success of your own podcast?
Hmm. What habit? That's a really good question. One of the things that we have, Becca and I think have established, this is something that I take into companies with me, is that if you don't create your culture in an organization, it will get created for you. And so Becca and I are very rigorous about creating a culture of authenticity and sharing. If you listen to our last episode, she just shared some pretty, really, really, really personal stuff. Um, and so we are real authentic on our show. And when I say the word habit, that's that I think more of like I drink 3 glasses of water every day, but really we make authenticity a habit on our show, and we have be my being out as trans and her sharing herself from her personal development place, and me sharing my heart out from a place of personal development. We want to we're really aligned with the same goal you are. I mean, we don't want people to think that they're the only ones and that there's not some way to get powerful from wherever you are, because both of us have been there. And so I think authenticity is our habit.
Thank you. Yeah, I would absolutely 100% agree with that. Your show is very open and it's a premium truth juice, I would say. Most certainly.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Can I quote you on that, Mr. Logan? Premium truth juice.
Yeah, if you want, I'll write a review today for you, okay?
Thanks.
Absolutely. I love this question so much just because I think that everyone's a victim to it. It's that sort of question that what's a curious thing on your mind that's been on your mind for, a few days, maybe a week? and you just have had it kind of sitting there, and you yet haven't really done anything with it other than just maybe read a little bit about it. What's that one thing that you're super curious about right now?
Super curious about right now. Gosh, trying to think of the last thing that I was curious about that I, haven't Googled yet, or um, there was some. Oh, yes, yes. Okay. Yeah. Last thing that came up in my mind that I was curious about that I haven't gotten complete answers on yet are how. This is so silly, but it popped up for a friend of mine. Some friends of mine are considering living in an RV, and I am so curious. Like, what how does one finance an RV? Like, a car is usually a 5-year finance. A mortgage on a house is 30, 15 years, 30 years. What kind of financing does one have for an RV? I still don't know the answer to that. But I'm curious about it.
Dude, that is awesome. That is something awesome to be curious about. Admittedly,
I
I've
don't have any
never.
curiosities that are, my curiosities are like, stuff I can Google.
Yeah, no, that's then you got to do that through experimentation, I think. So, um, I love it. The last thing I'd love to ask is, just because I think that a lot of people are scared to do things because they think that their voice won't be heard. So, what do you think?
Uh-huh.
What's one marketing habit that you used to always allow your voice to be heard?
My coaches won't like this one, but uh for one thing is I don't ever go watch after. So I do a video for you. I do a Facebook Live, or I'll do a video. People can find me at my YouTube channel. I've got hundreds of videos up there. I don't go read. I don't go. I To me, it's art. Like, you don't. An artist doesn't do a canvas and then hang it up and then have an opportunity to take it down, and like, they have to deal with the critique, right? And so I feel like when I look at it like my art, and I do my art, and the people that are attracted to my art and that resonate with my art come. And there's sometimes that people come to just to hassle me. Being a trans person, I've had enough people, say mean things to me. But that's why I don't go listen, because none of that matters. I don't do it for any of that. I do it because I want to make a difference, and because I want to be a fully expressed human being. And part of the full expression of this version of myself is about, you know, sharing. I'm really good at sharing and personal development, having people really be able to change their lives through, transform their lives, whatever it is. I've had women lose 100 pounds from just doing my seminar. Just I've got a skill at being able to have people shift the way they think about things, by getting curious and starting to understand their minds. And in terms of the trans education I do, um, I'm good at having people, check their perception around trans people, because people think they know what we're about and they don't. So, how I just do it. It's one of those things. I think you just have to, if you want your voice heard, you have to just put it out there, and and call it your art, and then let it be. Don't go, second guessing yourself. Don't go checking on it. Don't go looking at it. Half that stuff comes from ego anyway, right? So I just put it out there, and then I don't go look at it.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I know back in acting school, sometimes our teachers would have us watch our films, and it's like we're just not biologically created to do that, to sort of look at what we
Yeah.
made. And then, it's and the other night, actually, my father was watching one of my videos, and I like came into the kitchen like all vicious. I'm like, why are you watching that? Like, and I actually like had a moment where I was like upset that he was watching something that I put out there in the world. It was just odd to me to see myself there, even though I've seen myself a dozen times. But it's just seeing that out there. It's like you're exactly right. It gives you an opportunity to judge it and let the ego get in the way and say, "Hey,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
I put that up there. Now I can take it down." And that's
Yeah.
that's that's great. I love that you said that. So I didn't think you
Well,
were
and
going to take it that
some
place at
stuff I
all.
share is really personal. So I mean, I cry and I do, and then if I really let my ego get in my head with that, I could really beat myself up and make myself wrong. And I feel like when my intention is to make a difference, the people that will need it will find it. And so that's the intention that I do everything behind. And then, before I speak, I step up. Everybody has their different spiritual philosophies. I study the New Thought teachings and the law of attraction and the Course in Miracles and those kind of things. And so before I speak, I ask to be spoken through. I mean, I say, Holy Spirit, come through me. Let me say what they need. Have me say what they need to hear and be who they need me to be. Because I'm here to serve. I'm not here for me. I'm here. I mean, when I step up and do that kind of stuff, it's about everybody else. I hope. When my ego gets in the way, that's when it's crappy. so, you know, so I try to stay out of the way.
That is amazing. Yeah, I want to go for another 14 hours and talk to you, but I want to also allow anyone, that one person right now that needs to get back to doing the work that they love, or get starting on the work they love, and scratching their own itch and getting deep and down with it. And I love that you leave it off on that. So I want to wrap it up there. Jay, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
They can find me at jpryorcoaching.com. They can find me on Facebook as J Pryor Coach, Twitter J Pryor Coach, all those things. And the podcast is called Doing the Work with Jay and Becca. I have a co-host. Her name is Becca Booth, and you can find us on iTunes and also on Facebook at Doing the Work with Jay and Becca. We have a private Facebook page that's just for listeners, and I do a private inside the Facebook page. I do a private Facebook Live every Thursday at 11 Central. Oh, and YouTube. There's also the YouTube channel. So all the things, basically.
Just Google Jay Pryor. He'll be there. or
Find me.
um you'll be there. You'll be there. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank
Gosh.
you, Logan. It's so great to be on your show. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks. Wow. That means a lot to me. You're certainly a hero of mine, and I want you to know that. You've been mentoring me, even if you didn't know it yet. And so, thank you so much for all that you do, and keep doing it, and don't stop. And let it come through you, like you said. I mean, it's amazing what you can do when you just believe in that higher power and letting it come through you, instead of it's coming out of nowhere. Like nothing great was created in a vacuum. And thank you for scratching your own itch with me today.
Thank you, Logan.
Thank you for scratching your own itch with me today.
Thank
Wow, that was an awesome episode of Jay Pryor and I. I'm so happy to have brought him in to this podcast. He's an incredible human being, incredible person, just through and through. So please connect with Jay. Also, if you could take some time to leave a review, I would love to read it out on the show. I would love to have you come to the community as well, Scratch Your Own Itch, Creating a Life Worth Living, in the Facebook group. And if you have any inkling of wanting to get your voice out there, as I said in the introduction, I would love for you to start asking yourself how you can do it, how you can get your voice out there. And how you can is email me, logantylernelson.com, to help yourself with a podcast. And you've got these limiting beliefs, if you don't have one yet, about, I'm not sure if I can do one, but you can. Trust me, you can. And I would love to help you on that. So please give me an email, logan@logantylernelson.com. And then also, hey, if you don't want to miss another episode, just hit the subscribe button. But most of all, don't ever forget, you matter and you're enough.